Good morning. Good morning, friends. I hope you're well arrived into the day, even if maybe still a little sleepy. Let me just check the sound. I'm experimenting with new ways of managing the sound this week. In fact, I'm just going to move that. So just let me know maybe if it sounds all right. I've got more knobs to twiddle here, so I'm not quite sure about settings. Sounds good? Yeah, okay, good. Thanks, George. All right. Time for meditation. You know, yesterday somebody asked the question, good question. If everything's changing, I think the question was, if everything's changing, what are we to connect to? Everything. Another way of asking that, if everything's changing, what are we to rest into? Now, I talk a lot about resting into meditation, settling into presence. So how can you settle if everything's changing? And I answered a little bit, but I thought I'd say a little more this morning, which is that, you know, it's true, you can't settle into that which is changing. And that's what we're doing a lot of time. We're trying to seek continuity, stability, and security in that which is actually unable to provide those things because it's changing, right? Like everything, everything. In that sense, everything is unreliable, which can sound a little stark. It's not actually, it's just true, right? It's not designed to be nihilistic. It's not to deny that phenomena can be beautiful, inspiring, in all kinds of ways. But even that which seems to be the most beautiful and most inspiring, the happiest you've ever felt, right? The happiest moment you've ever felt, is that was an unreliable moment, right? Because where's it gone now? Right? It's just everything's already disappearing, already vanishing, already flowing away. And so if you were around early this morning, I was chanting reflections in Pali, one of those sabbe sankara anicca, sabbe sankara dukkha, sabbe dhamma anatta, sabbe sankara anicca. This means everything, all phenomena are fleeting, fluid, changing. Sabbe sankara dukkha, all phenomena are unreliable. They're not going to do it for you. Whatever it is that you conceive, if only I had that, if only I was there, if only it was like that. As if what then? And then if it was like that, so what? You know, that would, even if you can arrange circumstances like that, that would be unreliable. Right? It would be very nice for a short time, and then there would be something. Of course there would. Sabbe dhamma anatta. Everything, not just the sankharas, means the built up experiences, but all phenomena is kind of transparent, unfindable, insubstantial. And in many ways, that's what we're attuning to again and again in meditation. Meditation is on the one hand, we could say, the mirror in which we get to see that everything is fluid and insubstantial. Nothing lasts, nothing stays. However much you get wrapped up in it, however much you become very personally invested in an experience or in a mind state or in a reaction or in a belief, if you really look, how long does that last? It's brief. And sometimes we get so involved in a particular reaction or a particular mind state, it can seem as if it lasts a long time. I've been feeling like this for days, people say. It's not true. It's not true. You don't feel like this for days. We tell ourselves the story that that's the case, but actually a feeling state is really quite brief. Right? If you look back over these days that I've been feeling like this for days, actually you'll notice within that there's all kinds of nuance. An actual feeling state doesn't last more than a few moments, actually, before it has a slightly different nuance. And attuning to those changing nuances is really helpful because it frees us from the idea that I've been feeling like this for days. Or another one, I'm in constant pain. Or you're always so... The language of continuity and solidity is a tricky language. So somebody will come to me on meditation and say, oh, I'm constantly feeling, whoa, back up. That's the sure sign. If somebody says that something is constant, it's a sure sign that they've contracted. That's what makes it feel constant. We contract around experience. And our contractions give our experience a seeming solidity and a seeming continuity. So then we, on one hand, as I say, meditation is the mirror in which we see that everything's changing. But because we're so used to making things solid and continuous seeming, when we do start to notice that everything's changing, at first we think that means it's changing over time. As if things change over time. Oh, and then we get it, okay, this seems solid, this bell stick, but over time it will, it's wood, so it will rot. It might take a very long time to keep it dry. It can last many, many, many years, centuries even, but in theory, it's changing over time. That's what we think change means, that things change over time. But actually what's being pointed to more essentially than that is that everything's different in every moment, in every second of experience. It's not about trying to perceive the way this is different, this as an object is different in every moment. Even though that's true atomically, right? Apparently the atoms are moving, but we can't perceive the changing atoms in a piece of wood in that way. But experientially, everything, it's not that things change over time, it's that everything's constantly arising, constantly appearing, constantly flickering. Each mind moment creates the universe. And we settle into the flowing nature, the changing nature, the fleeting nature, the ephemeral nature, the flickering nature of everything. It's not so much that we think, oh, reality or experience is changing over time. It's rather the miracle that there is anything at all. And that everything just is flickering into awareness, mind moments of perception, right? of contact, of seeing, of hearing. It's often why sound is a good object for meditation, because it's constantly disappearing nature. It's moment by momently different in nature. Kind of stands out to us often more clearly than sight, for example, which is a little more dominant. Sight makes up, even though what's happening in the visual field is moving, sight, we assume or infer greater continuity from sight than we do from sound. So on the one hand, we're just as tuning, letting our meditation be a mirror to the flickering nature of everything. I don't know if you can hear the rain on my roof this morning. It's only very gentle. But rain on a roof is a wonderful example of the flickering nature of everything. So, as I say, on the one hand, we're letting meditation be a mirror to just settle amidst all the flickering. The sensory flickering, sounds, sensations, Bodily sensation, good example. We make up solidity, my leg hurts, or my breath, as if breath is a thing. But breath isn't a thing, right? Breath is a good example of, there's no such thing as the breath, right? Each mind moment is a different experience out of which we infer a continuity, an objectivity, a something called the breath or called my breathing. So, as I say, letting meditation be a mirror in which we see our tendency to make object, and we keep relaxing that tendency and allowing everything to be fluid, allowing sensations to move, allowing sounds to flow, allowing breath to come and go, allowing thoughts to flicker and pass. And then, oh, excuse me. That's the advantage of the knob. I can twiddle it if I sneeze, so you don't get blasted if you're wearing headphones. Hold on, another one. Okay. And then on the other hand, as we're settling into this changing, as we're constantly attending to the fact that everything's fluid, the question, like it arose yesterday, so if everything's changing, where are we? How come there can be any settling? Like that famous Zen story. Two monks meet on the road. One says to the other, "Where are you going?" The other says, "To an unchanging place." And the first says, how can it be unchanging if there is going? The second says, going too is unchanging. If everything's fluid and fleeting, how can there be any settling? If everything's fluid and changing, how can there be any stable presence? So it's hard to speak about, but what happens, the more we attend to the fact that everything's flickering and changing, the more the light of awareness, which is noticing all the change, starts inevitably, naturally, to sort of turn itself around and to become aware of its own nature, that there is a kind of constancy to the space in which all the flickering is happening. This constancy, this space, this awareness cannot itself be known as an object, because then what would be knowing that? Right? You can't know the knowing. The knowing can't be known as an object. The knowing knows objects. The knowing knows breathing. The knowing knows hearing. The knowing knows sensing. And then we say, well, what's the knowing? We try to look for the knowing. We can't. But keep attending to the changing nature. And somehow, in the process of doing that, the knowing of it, the space in which all of that is happening, starts to just stand out to us, starts to be recognized. And that allows us to really trust that space, trust the knowing, and settle more and more fully, more and more in a way that can feel deeply settled, but also is fully alive in the midst of this floating, fleeting realm of experience called our world, our sense lives, our consciousness. So let's sit together in meditation. Given that everything is changing, don't try to control anything. Don't try to control your mind. Don't try to control your experience. Rather, it's like just inviting yourself to be here. Inviting body to just relax and be as it is. Inviting the sensations of bodily life to be as they are. Inviting sounds. Like letting life in. Letting life in. And inviting your attention to do what it most wants to do, which is to settle. To settle in to being here. To settle into this texture of changing experience. And because we so easily get pulled around, because our attention so easily gets lost in all this river of experience, it's helpful to just choose one element of changing experience to settle into. So it might be the breathing, just the feel of breathing, the changing feel of breathing, just settling into. Feel of the in-breath, the way it changes to the out-breath. And settling here, settling here. That might be at a precise location, or it might be throughout just the whole sense of a breathing body. Finding a way to settle that is not forced, that's not controlled, that's not effortful. Relaxing into the stream of changing experience. Without going anywhere, without staying anywhere. So that relaxation reveals that you're already here. Naturally present. All the change, all the flickering, all the coming and going. It all happens right here, right where you are. This is the dance of meditation. Constantly changing experience. And the invitation to settle, to become the changing flow without going anywhere, without staying anywhere. Without reaching for anything, without resisting anything. The more we dissolve into the changing flow of experience, the more we find ourselves right here, steady, open, imperturbable. We're afraid to let go. Let go of our habits, our reaching and resisting. We're afraid that if we let go into the flow of things, we'll be swept away. But this changing flow of experience, it doesn't go anywhere. Everything just flows from here to here to here. Going to is unchanging. It's in letting ourselves be swept away that we find ourselves right here. check the field of your experience. Notice if there's any contraction or tension, any resistance to the flow of experience. And if there is, just see what would it take for that to soften, dissolve. Just seeing how you can keep returning to a condition where there's no pushing, no pulling, no resisting, no reaching. May we all dare to dissolve. Letting ourselves be carried away by the river of constantly changing experience, only to discover that we're always and only right here. Embracing the changing of everything. We find our home in the unchanging. Rain has got stronger here. I don't know how much my mic is picking up, but there's a kind of wonderful sound of summer rain on the roof. Always reminds me of Thailand. First retreat I ever sat, which was 3 months long in Wat Suan Mok. And this time of year, actually, right, exactly this time of year. Began on the 1st of July, 1990. And it's kind of time, monsoon time, so just my practice very much kind of got established amidst the sound of warm rain on the roof. So it's very, very evocative for me. Nice. All right. It's a little time for questions. A couple there already. Feel free to add questions there if you'd like. And just a few words. Oh, a couple of things actually. One is, I was just looking at the Mulan retreat program yesterday, and there are 2 English language retreats with me this year that still have a few places. There's one in August, sometime in the middle of August, and that's a retreat that I'm co-teaching with Mimi Kuodima, who's also taught here at Sangha Live. She's a very, very skilled and accomplished Qigong teacher, and so the retreat will be will alternate with sitting and walking meditation practice, and also with Qigong practice here at the Mulan in the bamboo and on the deck. So that still has a few places. And then in early October, I'm doing an English language retreat here, which I can't remember the title of, but I've invited Peace Tsegiwe to come on that retreat. She's dear friend, accomplished teacher. She's teaches insight dialogue, and we'll be doing some relational practices. So it's kind of, there's a more than usual sense of really including some psychological inquiry and some inquiry into the nature of reality in a kind of seamless way. So there'll be a lot of emphasis on integration in that retreat, just the way we integrate kind of insights and integrate our practice in the various realms of life. So please feel free, check them out if those seem interesting and if circumstances allow. I think George has just put the link there. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Quick reminder about Dana. All this is offered, freely offered. So the request is, take in the free offering, and if you're able to freely offer from your side the dana offerings that support me as the teacher this week, that support Sangha Live, that support everybody who's able to practice here. And the request, if you make an offering, just to connect in the moment where you make an offering, however much you're able to offer, just to connect to the heart quality. It's a beautiful thing, generosity. Buddha talks about dana as a foundation for happiness. So please, when you make an offering, just to connect to the feeling of goodness, gratitude to be able to offer, to be able to support, to participate in this mutual network of supporting each other. That's what I mean. That's the way the world needs to run. We actually conceive of our relationship with each other as a network of mutual support, supporting each other, supporting other creatures, supporting the planet we live on, while being supported by each other, supported by the planet we live on. That sense of mutuality is so fundamental for a kind of sane way of life. So how beautiful that we get to model that kind of mutuality here together. All right, Anthony says, why is it so difficult to come down from a high? Well, it's not necessarily, but mostly it's two things. I mean, one Dharma point of view is just the clinging. We get overly invested in it. We think it means more than it does. You say, oh my God, now I've really got it. Oh, this is great. Oh, now and then you sort of set yourself up for a fall, right? When that inevitably comes to an end. Also, just biochemically, depends what kind of high it is, But when your nervous system gets very stimulated by a high, right, and that might be a kind of intoxicated high, of various kind, whether you've taken some intoxicant to get high, literally, or whether it's just the revved nervous system, right, the overproduction of not serotonin, dopamine, right? Then you actually strip your supply of dopamine from your nervous system. And then when you've exhausted your current supply of dopamine, it's like you crash. And so there is a biochemical stripping of the endorphins and the pleasure chemicals, right? So the high, I see you've now kind of qualified that as a bipolar high. So the same thing. It's like you're running. If you're running on a high, right, and that can be extreme, or it can just be when we get excited. Oh yeah, then you're literally burning up the feel-good chemicals that are to do initially with just well-being, but then they tip over from well-being into excitement, and you're just using up your supply, And so if you use up your supply of something, you sort of crash when it's over. I mean, it's just like eating cookies. You get sugar high, chocolate high, and then a crash. So it's not to suggest that, we shouldn't ever go any higher, that we should stay at some even level. But the encouragement might be emphasize relaxation in the midst of a high, right? That doesn't mean, I've got to relax as if I shouldn't enjoy the high. No, enjoy it, but enjoy it in that way that you understand, this has its own life, right? I don't need to feed it. When you're feeding the high, that's when you're depleting yourself. Rather, let the high feed you. Oh, happy, feel-good chemicals. Oh, bright mind. Oh, sense of enjoyment, possibility, right? So letting that happen, but the sense of not feeding it, just being fed by it. And so then when it runs out, as it has to, it runs out the kind of little more natural, okay, and then this is what happens after it runs out. Maybe there's a little more fatigue in the nervous system. There's a kind of, and then one can actually access the sense of, coming to rest after the high, which is different than crashing after a high. Yeah. Okay. Let me just see. Joss says, so Ines, I noticed that you've mentioned about speaking, and George has given instructions to raise your hand. So if you do that, then he would be able to bring you on the screen. If you have the wherewithal to do that, and if time remains. Joss says, how to bear the pain of those we love, turning to alcohol to release their suffering. With all the destruction that causes, I feel so unable to help them find the Dharma as a better path. Yes, that's the one important part of it, Joss, just recognizing you're unable to help them find the Dharma as a better path. Even we could say, who are we to think that them finding the Dharma is a better path? It's clearly a better path for us, right? But it is painful to acknowledge, but it's also sobering to acknowledge that you can't make another be somewhere other than where they are. You just can't. So the heart wants to, right? That's beautiful. You can acknowledge the heart that wants to, oh, I want to support this person. Oh, I want to help this person. Oh, I see that this person is suffering and I suffer with them. In a way, that's what compassion is, right? The recognizing this is suffering and letting your heart ache because your heart is alive and sensitive and loving and responsive. Your heart should ache when you see somebody else suffering, right? But then what happens is we often, rather than just feeling that ache and seeing clearly, is there something I can do or not? Sometimes there is, in which case we do it. Sometimes there isn't. But often we cover over that ache with a whole kind of emotional machinations of why are they like this? Why can't I help? Why can't they see? Etc. And that why stuff is out of your hands. So it is painful. It's good. It's not pleasant, but it's good that it's painful. It's right that it's painful. And then it's like, oh, just to see how can you I hate to hesitate to use the word purify, but in a way, how can you purify the pain of that by not contracting around it, not making drama out of it, not getting lost in how things could be or should be or why they're like that, but just, it's painful to see this person in that condition. And then, as I say, there's a sobering quality because the compassion is alive. It's painful to see this person, and yet also wisdom is alive. I can't make them do things differently. I certainly can't make anyone see things my way. So you can be available, however you can be. You can be sensitive, however you can be. You can be willing to talk to them, should they be able to listen. You can be skillful in not colluding with their delusions, right? And telling them what you see. I see that you're dependent on alcohol, that you're hurting yourself with alcohol, that you're damaging your health with alcohol, that you're running away from yourself with alcohol. And I love you, and I don't want to see that. And I'm here to support you if I can. So not colluding with their delusions, but also not trying to tell them they should be different, or they should be like you, or they should be doing what you think they should be doing. No, you can say what you see, but that's different, right? So it's a painful situation. I get it, Joss. So maybe I hope there's something helpful in there. All right. Yes, thank you, Holly. That I saw something. Gwen said she couldn't see the retreat, and then Holly has helpfully put the title, which indeed it's called Full Spectrum Awakening, a path of waking up, growing up, and showing up. Yeah, good stuff. All right, friends. Thank you for your presence and your practice and your goodness of heart and your support for each other. Let's do it all again tomorrow. See you then.